To get some answers, we have with us a very special guest, Union Commerce Minister, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. Piyush ji, good evening. Welcome to Rising Bharat. It's Wednesday. Trump tariffs have kicked in. Markets are volatile. Recession fears loom. What is India's strategy, sir?
Thank you, Palki. Thank you, Palki. I think we've all seen the way Prime Minister Modi has deftly managed the entire situation. He was very cognizant of the impending possibilities. He was first off the block in building back his old friendship and relationship with President Trump. They both jointly declared that the US and India are trusted partners and we will work towards a bilateral trade agreement by fall of 2025 to ensure that our relationship, our friendship and our ongoing partnership, not only in trade, but in so many areas, geopolitical, defense, we have a very strategic relationship with the US. And I think it's only got reinforced since President Trump has come in. I think our strategy is very clear. We are engaged with the US. Incidentally, we are right up front in the queue because we started early. Prime Minister Modi had the foresight to recognize the crisis, and as is his wont, we have seen it in history over the last 11 years, every crisis has been converted into an opportunity for India.
We hope this one is true. And you've been at the forefront of the conversations and you've engaged with the Americans and your counterparts in Washington, D.C. What have they told you? What is their primary concern? Is it the trade surplus or is it the high tariffs? What do they want to fix?
I think we must recognize that this problem that the US is facing is not particularly directed towards India. The whole issue is about fair trade. And that's something India has been very vocal about for the last 10 years. I recently shared with an audience that we have to go to the root of the issue. The genesis of this problem emanates from the entry of China into the WTO about 30 years ago, when they approached the WTO and then they were admitted as a full-time member with all the privileges of most favored nation status, which means, in common words, that we cannot have differential tariffs for different nations. And therefore, whatever is the tariff one country imposes on country A has to be the same from country A to Z, unless we have a bilateral trade agreement or a free trade agreement. Now, I think we have suffered over the years tremendously. I don't know what agreement Congress party signed with the Communist Party of China during the UPA government. But post that, we saw the trade deficit with China grow by leaps and bounds. And India and Indian manufacturers, Indian industry, Indian trade suffered massively. Similarly, the US has suffered massive trade deficits because of the non-market economy that is China, because of their predatory pricing or unfair trade practices. And I think the United States is trying to reset the rules of the game. And in some sense, it's a good omen for India because it opens up huge opportunities. I've just come in, Palki, to your program straight from an interaction with all the sectoral export promotion councils. And I must tell you, save and except one or two, everybody is very excited. They see good potential going forward. They are supporting our engagement with the US, and together they and us will convert this into a great business opportunity.
Right, fair point. And I did see that comment about China's unfair economic rise earlier. And by that logic, Trump is taking the fight to China. But in the last decade then, our trade deficit with China has crossed $100 billion. So what are we doing to fix the imbalance?
Incidentally, the exponential growth that happened in the UPA time was about 25x. So a small trade deficit from $1 billion, $1.5 billion increased to almost $35 odd billion. Now, once you have weakened Indian industry, once you have killed, for example, our KSM and the important ingredients that go into making our pharma industry the pharmacy of the world, we become dependent on China for these materials, for many items. And then it takes a long time to get all of that back reshored into India. We have been working through projects like the Product Linked Incentive Scheme, where 1,97,000 crores has been given to different sectors. Our Semicon project, where the semiconductor industry and its ecosystem is getting 75,000 crores. We have recently announced that we'll come out with a scheme for the toys and the footwear sector. 2 days back, the cabinet decision was announced, I think probably on Friday last week, 3 days back, that we are going to offer 22,000 crores for the electronics component manufacturers to support them to manufacture high quality inputs in India. So it's a continuous process to promote manufacturing, to get industry in India to replace a lot of goods which have become a part of our supply chains. And wherever we see dumping or predatory pricing from products coming in from China, the government acts proactively. We have the Director General of Trade Remedies acting on any request that sector's industry puts up to us. We have the Industry Ministry working with the different sectors to protect any irrational pricing. So it's an ongoing effort, and our growth of the deficit during our 10 years compared to the 25x plus that grew in the 10 years of UPA is possibly only 3x or so.
Right. I'll come to the China point in a bit, and I know there's a political reset as well. But coming back to the Trump tariffs, I'm sure you had some calculation before the tariffs were announced. Was 26% closer to your best case scenario or worst case scenario?
I think the tariffs have been determined based on a formula, which is the trade deficit that the US has with a particular country divided by the total imports into the US from that country.
What do you make of that formula, though? You're a chartered accountant yourself.
I would not like to comment on a formula that's used by the United States. Basis that formula, they've come up with different tariffs for different countries. We believe that India was not one of those countries which really needed to have tariffs on them because we were already in engagement for a bilateral trade deal. But I think the US has not differentiated. For every country, they've come out with a number. But we are in constant engagement, and I think we'll be working with them to take off these additional tariffs in the days to come.